Green students. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping announcements. First of all, please turn off your cell phones and pagers during this session out of respect for the speakers and other attendees. At the end of the session, there will be a question and comment period. Please hold your questions until then to help us maintain the schedule. Professionals, if you're here and you're looking to get AIA or GBIC credit, we will have a form outside at the table that you can sign up on your way out. Any students who are here who are getting extra credit from your instructors, there will also be a form out there, a sheet out there you can sign in on. Leave your name, your professor's name on that sheet. I'd like to introduce very quickly Dustin Altschull. Dustin, raise your hand. Dustin will be assisting us this morning. He also has some speaker evaluation forms that he'll be distributing as we get started on the presentations. On your way out, if you're stopping to sign one of these forms, you can hand your completed evaluation form to Dustin. He'll be out there collecting those. So what I'd like to do is move into our presentations. I'm going to introduce all four of our speakers today as their presentations do sort of flow into one another. First, we have Anthony Ofek. Anthony is an architect by day and a volunteer for students in sustainable advocacy, by night. Through his involvement, U.S. Green Building Council student chapters create positive, sustainable impacts for their future careers, their campuses, and their local communities. He also uses his over 13 years worth of experience as an architect to mentor students and raise the bar so that those leaving college are as knowledgeable as their new coworkers. Anthony will be joined by Lauren Pedigo. Lauren is an undergraduate student of architecture at Lawrence Tech. She serves as president of the Lawrence Tech chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council, a group which promotes sustainable choices on campus and within the community. The second half of our presentation will be brought to you by Michael Pichero and Nathan Vader. Michael is a master's student in the architectural engineering program here at Lawrence Tech. He's the director of operations for his student organization, Students Constructing a Sustainable Tomorrow, which is the group behind the university's 2015 solar decathlon efforts. This student organization is comprised of about 20 students who are committed to designing and implementing student-initiated projects to increase ecological mindfulness as well as to induce positive, lasting change in their surrounding communities. Michael will be joined by Nathan Vader. Nathan is a third-year architectural engineering student here at Lawrence. He's been involved in the solar decathlon project since his freshman year and is currently working on the building systems team in these early stages of the project. He's mainly engaged with research into various mechanical systems to be implemented into the house design. So without further ado, I would like to turn the lectern over to Anthony Ofek.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Ofek. I'm going to be starting off this presentation sort of focused on sustainable student organizations and how the students work together to transform their campus, community, and their career through their activities and events. My part is dealing with the students doing sustainable campus events and community events by organizations. As was already mentioned, I'm an architect at Albert Kahn by day, and by night I help out the US GBC student groups all throughout Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio as a national chair. I won't go through all these learning objectives and stuff. You'll pretty much get the idea of it as we go through. Before we get into events, you have to really step back and think about why do you get involved with an organization, not only professionally, but when you're a student or if you are a student, why? Well, if you look at yourselves and look at what you did, I don't know about you, but we're all individuals and we all want to make some kind of impact. So what kind of impacts or organizations did you want to do in college? Anyone want to share? Anyone? Okay. I guess if you guys don't want to, you're welcome to. But we get involved because we want to do things that we like, work with a bunch of friends that we like, and focus on some kind of difference that we know when we step out of college we did. And become something larger than just ourselves, as well as have an individualistic portion within that overall larger. So basically, how do student organizations start, sustainable ones? Well, there's 3 different main ways usually. Usually you have a group of friends who all agree they want to make a difference in some kind. So they say, hey, how can we do this? So we get together maybe over beer, pizza, video games, whatnot. And they start to talk and talk and talk, and eventually they're like, hey, let's actually do something. And it starts to grow that way. Another way is you happen to have a friend at another college and they happen to be part of an organization, you see what they do and you're like, wow, that's really great, I wish my college did that. And then the third way is you have a representative from some national or regional organization say, do you guys know what you're missing? Here's what you guys should be doing. Those are usually the 3 main ways organizations evolve on a college. Now there are 2 different types of sustainable student organizations or organizations, period. There's the homegrown ones, and then there's like the national and regional ones. Both have their pluses and minuses. The homegrown ones basically are started in a grassroots type movement, like I said. Some people getting together over beer or pizza or something and say, hey, we want to do a certain goal, certain event on this campus. And that's great because usually that leads to those people being very passionate about that one event, one goal. And sometimes the group starts to get bigger and bring on more goals, and sometimes it just stays small. Nothing's wrong with that. They like it because they don't have to worry about any formal rules other than just campus guidelines, and they don't have to pay dues to anyone. The only downfall of these systems is you don't have a whole lot of lessons learned or shared ideas or connections that you can make with other campus organizations, either in campus or outside of campus, because you're all focused in one area and you don't have a good network. That's where the national regional organizations have their added bonuses, where you might have to pay dues and you might have to follow a certain set of guidelines and do certain events to remain active. But the biggest bonus of all is you have this access to resources, access to networks, connections, access to other like-minded organizations set up the same way, so that if you're having a rough time, or if you think someone else has done a great idea, you can go and say, hey, how did you do that? And thus make your own events, your own impacts even better and greater than could have been possible. And that's, in the area of sustainability, that's where you want to do. You want to make not only your own impact, but make it as big as you possibly can do. So before we go through and look at some of the different impacts that can be done, let's look at some examples of these homegrown organizations and what they focus on. At Emory College, there's a dining team, green team. Basically, they focus on making sustainability a part of the dining experience at their college. That's their sole focus. It's open to any student, but they're about trying to make all the dining halls more green. U of M, you have the Green Greeks. Their sole focus is trying to take sororities and fraternities and make them live green, more sustainable, recycle, make their houses more energy efficient. And that's great, that's their sole focus. At Stanford University, they have the Green Living Council. Their sole focus is basically helping out students in dormitories live a more sustainable way of living. Make sure they try and use towels instead of paper towels, use your own washcloths. Don't use incandescent light bulbs, recycle, a whole bunch of variety of different ways. Try and make them realize how to make their impact a little bit less. At MSU, they have the Residential Initiative on a Study in Environment called RISE. Basically, this is more of a hands-on approach to helping, especially freshmen as they come in to MSU, get hands-on approach to sustainability. They actually go and do energy audits of the residential halls. They lobby state legislators. They do gardening with K through 12, and they analyze groundwater at some sites around. Great real-world experience that goes on, but their focus is on that. At Aquinas College, they have a zero waste planning team, where basically their sole goal is to work with faculty, students, and administrators to get to zero waste by 2014. So each individual area, the students, the faculty, the admin, they are all focused on certain things. So they have students who are in charge of making sure their residential dorm halls use less and less waste. In fact, in fall they started off of 2012 removing 2 dumpsters. They saved their college $1,000 a month. This summer they removed another 2 dumpsters, and now they're saving another additional $500 a month. So not only is it good for the environment, it's good for the college because they're saving money that now can be put back into programs to make even better things happen for the students that go there. So stuff like this is what goes on in what some different homegrown organizations do. And nothing's wrong with that, but they don't have anything really to share with other universities because it's just homegrown. For example, if Lawrence wanted to do a zero waste planning team, they wouldn't know how to connect with this compliance college because there's no overall umbrella. And that's why there's national and regional based organizations where they have specific goals set up so that there is this sharing of ideas, sharing of things that goes on. We're going to look at the 2 different types. There's the ones that are based on area of study, like AIS, ASHRAE, ESW, and then there's the other ones that aren't have a specific area of study, like Focus the Nation, Sierra Student Club, Student Environmental Action Coalition, and US GBC Students. The AIAS is basically focused on architectural students, providing education, as well as other activities throughout the ways. Because it's focused on mostly architectural, there's not a whole lot of openness to the other students because the other students, even if it is open, will feel like, well, we're not an architect, I can't be a part of that group. Whether that's true or not, it's just the perception. But AIS does some great things. They make sure that architectural students get educated on sustainability. They actually do some building site beautification projects. And they do other social justice things like construction, like LTU does here, and other AIS chapters, as well as a whole myriad of other events that actually not only are good for sustainability, but social justice. ASHRAE is similar. Focus on those students who are involved with heating and ventilation, engineers. Again, whether it's open or not, the perception always is to the normal student, oh, I'm not anywhere dealing with any kind of these issues. I can't be involved. Nothing's wrong with that. But it's one of those perceptions. So ASHRAE does similar to AIS. They do education, they do building experience, and they have conferences as well as other things. Engineers for Sustainable World is where it starts to spread out a little bit more. Instead of just focusing on HVAC systems as appears with ASHRAE, this is open to any engineer. Once again, students who aren't engineers may think, I can't be a part of this. That may not be true, but it's just a perception. They again focus on education, but they also focus on sustainable design-oriented projects. They'll have competitions like the Life Cost Assessment Challenge amongst these universities, or they'll do real-world studies showing actual comparison between air dryers versus paper, which is the lesser of the carbon impact. I mean, these are great things that occurs, and they share that knowledge. It's harder to do that if you just, a university could do that, but sharing amongst all the organizations is a lot easier in a national, regional setup. Now, if we look at some of the organizations that aren't focused on an area of study, you got things like Focus the Nation. Their idea is to make youth sort of action agents and focus on 4 different areas. They focus on creating technicians, people who can create objects for sustainability, like passive solar. Political, those who are actually want to be advocates and go out and fight for sustainability. Innovation, try and think about new ways to do things like reusing to-go containers. Or storytelling, talking about the sustainable message and why you want to be involved and how to share that message. The CBC Student Coalition is another volunteer organization. This one actually goes not only just in colleges, but it goes all the way down to the K-12 level. It's just sort of a stepchild of, or a little brother of the Sierra Club itself. So they're focused on not only advocacy, but also cleaning up areas, social justice, and other areas such as doing campus gardens. They're basically just a smaller version of the overall Sierra Club. mission, which is to create sustainability throughout our area. The Student Environmental Action Coalition sometimes might be on the disruptive side, but their idea is the same thing: advocacy, teaching leaders. Now theirs is a little bit different than other organizations where they're more from the bottom up. There's a headquarters, but it takes orders from everyone from down below, not tell everyone from above what you guys should be doing. So the groups, the students in these groups, it varies from college to college because it just depends on who's leading them and what they feel they're passionate about. So there's a lot of advocacy that they do. However, they also do things such as cleaning up, and campus gardens, so like Sierra Club and other organizations. But their main focus is advocacy. Then there's GBC Students, which is, it seems like it would be, because it's United States Green Building Council, that it would be focused on just building industry students. But it actually is meant to be open to all students because they recognize that everyone lives, works, and plays within a building. So it affects everyone. So the idea is to get any student involved with this because we all can contribute to sustainability. Like the other organizations, they have an advocacy area, but they also want to show, like the AIS and ASHRAE, there's an educational aspect and experience aspect that they know that they can help students make their careers before they leave for college through this experience, because that's what gets you a different level playing field comparative to your other peers who don't have building experience. So some activities that they'll do is like building tours, or for the careers, they'll do building tours, the GA study sessions, they'll do other experience in educational aspects, seminars. For the community, they focus on events like Green Apple Day of Service, which this conference is actually part of. The overall USGBC initiative is to create green schools for all within this generation. Green Apple Day is that market initiative to try and bring this to fruition. And then for campus, they'll do Campus Conservation Nationals, which is a national campus conservation, energy, and water movement throughout the whole U.S. Last year, over 100 colleges were involved with this, and they saved over 2 gigawatts worth of power in a 3-week time period. So that's pretty amazing, over 100 colleges saving that much energy. And I think they saved 1.7 million gallons of water during that same time period. Just imagine if even half the colleges in the U.S. did this. In fact, there's over 4,000 colleges. So if you think about that, half of that, we probably could save probably close to 20, well, maybe 50 gigawatts of energy in a 3-week time period, just from people being a part of it. And finally, they have conferences like Greenbuild that the students can be a part of. For example, students can volunteer at Greenbuild and attend it for free. So now I'd like to bring up a couple case studies. First, we'll look at the national regional-based type organizations such as GBC Students with Lawrence Tech right here, and then afterwards we'll be following up with a homegrown one, basically, which is what the Solar Decathlon is based on. So with this, we'll let Lauren talk a little bit about what the student group here on campus does.
All right, so Lawrence Tech's USGBC student group has been affiliated about over a year. It was last fall. And since then, we've been really trying to encourage students to go out into their campus and the community and just make it a healthier and better place to live. A couple of events that we have started on campus is the Don't Be Trashy. Don't Be Trashy is a national USGBC event that happens campuses all over the nation. And what we do is try to reduce the waste that freshmen moving in will cause, their extra boxes, their papers for packaging, everything. And we talk with them what can and can't be recycled. And if there is something that has a special way to recycle it, we go over that with them in hopes that they will continue recycling and take advantage of LTU's recycling program. Another big interest we have seen from students is they would like to start the LEAD GA, and we think this is great. We want to get some study sessions going. And we hope to get the people who are already interested certified, so when they do go out to get a job and when they do graduate, they already have that experience, and then they can continue to further their lead education. And then while doing that, we hope that other students become interested in becoming lead GA. And I mean, it's kind of intimidating for freshmen to look at that, but we want to show them that you don't have to have a ton of special experience. We just want to get that basic knowledge out there to them. Community events. One is the Green Apple Day of Service. In the past, we did go to Eastover, and with the students, we built solar ovens. This year, we are inviting them to the Sustainability Conference. It's going to be tomorrow morning. And we invited a couple different elementary schools. And when they're here, we're going to go over their carbon footprint. We're going to talk about the actions they do and how it will affect their carbon footprint, and then we're going to go over ways that they can reduce that. Some other events are just taking typical home products that they have, leftovers, milk jugs, lemonade bottles, and what they can do with those to recycle them. A couple things, we're doing the recycled bird feeder, we're also making bracelets, and we're just going to talk about simple ways at home that they can become more sustainable, and also we're going to talk with the parents on different things that they can do. This past summer we helped out at Better Block Detroit, and this is an event where they are trying to take a block that this one used to be the Windmill Market and show the possibilities that can happen there. They brought local businesses, and then they also implemented sustainable ways to get these businesses going. One thing that they did that I thought was pretty cool is they had a coffee and espresso machine that was solar powered, and it was a great way just for the community to come support these local businesses and also see ways that they're taking sustainable things such as solar panels and incorporating that. Some other things we do are building tours. A lot of times we do try to get the students out to the green roof on campus, and we try to get them off campus. Some other ones we went to is the strategic energy solutions. We are always looking for new places to take the students so they can see what people are doing out in the real world. And then conferences, there is the Green Build. There is this conference which we promote to all students, but we also like to do other networking and training. It doesn't have to be just the lead GA, but if students show interest in any sort of sustainable conference or discussion that they want to know, we try to get that information to them so they have it, so then they can take it now and put it in their projects, put it in their career, and then put it even in their everyday life.
Okay, thank you very much, Lauren. Appreciate that. So, our homegrown student organization that we're going to be talking to you all about today involves a project called Solar Detroit, going beyond net zero. And we're going to talk a little bit about what this is, how we plan to implement it, and what our vision is for this next step that we want to take in our education to get through some of the learning objectives, and you'll be able to pick up on them as we go along. But let's take a look first at this crisis at home that we all talk about all the time, and the blight situation that we have within the city of Detroit and our area, and some of the facts, some of the energy consumption, and then we're going to work on bringing it all back home to you guys about what it's really looking like. So they say that blight is a cancer, and from some of our recent research in an article named Detroit's Survival Depends on Speed of Destruction, William Pulte is quoted as saying that the only way to get the housing market functioning properly again in Detroit is to destroy large swaths of the city as quickly as possible. And granted, yes, they are recycling 94% of this destruction that they're doing, but how is it being recycled? What are they doing with it to make it better? Are they just putting it in a landfill and saying it's recycled, or there's some question around that? And are they really fulfilling what they say when they say, we're fulfilling Detroit Future City Plan, an attempt to make Detroit a sustainable city by the year 2030. So how does that all line up? And we know some of the facts. We know that Detroit is a city that was built for 2 million people and now only has 700,000 in it. And there's been organizations that are always trying to make that better, including the Detroit Blight Busters, who have been deconstructing homes for the past 25 years or so in Detroit. And even they say that we have to get rid of what we don't want, don't need, and can't use. Well, some of us students have been looking at this and thinking, well, you know what, maybe we do want some of those things. Maybe we do need some of those things. Maybe we can use some of them. And this is how we're starting to relook at all this, how we can look at reuse and reclaimed materials. So this is our current situation that we have. And some will say that blight has made Detroit unmanageable. And we all know, we've all been down there, we've all done the research. This is us visiting a neighborhood in Detroit this past summer. And we have a little bit different outlook on this, and we want to approach it in a different way, in an innovative way with this competition. So just to look at some of the facts, things that we know. We know that Detroit has lost many of its manufacturing jobs and it's been declining since the 1950s when it was at its peak, and Detroit was like the Paris of the United States. And we know that it was once the city of 2 million people in 1950 and then started to decline. We know when all that happens, the tax base shrinks. And then obviously municipal costs go up with fire and police and bus system and things like that. And obviously that increases blight and increases fires and crime and arson. And as a result, the city over the past year has implemented the emergency financial manager, who has come in to handle the city's $15 million or $15 billion debt. And so looking at us, what can we do as students? If we're supposed to be the next leaders of this world, being in college right now and learning these things, what can we do as students to get involved in this effort right now so that in 10 years, maybe some of our efforts will have translated into a better Detroit and a better Southeastern Michigan? So we've chosen to go ahead and not hang our heads, but raise our heads and raise our voices and even raise our roofs with this project that we want to be implementing. So this is what we'd like to say a little bit to the Detroit Financial Manager. Dear City of Detroit Emergency Manager, a group of us highly motivated, knowledgeable, and passionate students would like to assist you, and the past, current, and future residents of this great city as the new emergency residential managers. And we would like to propose things like, instead of so much destruction and demolition, use a more strategic tactic in deconstruction and focus on reclaim and reuse. And maybe we can rebuild new with what is old. And maybe we can create a business plan to put the 200,000, 300,000 people that are out of work in the city of Detroit, the highest unemployment rate in the United States at 30%. And maybe we can put them back to work to help them learn a new skill, maybe with that deconstruction or that demolition, and help them to put a roof over their heads and food on their tables and dignity in their soul. And how we do all that? We reuse available land. Detroit has enough land the size of Paris. It was built that way. I mean, it's modeled off of the city of Paris. And how we do that? We grow. We grow crops. We grow processed food and create food for ourselves, and we grow homes as well. And all that stuff can start to provide a new business type of ownership opportunities in the city of Detroit, as we know all of the wonderful opportunities that are going on right now as a result of the city's demise, for the most part, but it's on its way back up. So how do we plan to do this? What's our integrated plan? And we've decided to put together this matrix of this vertical matrix of how this can happen together in integrated effort. And if we look at this horizontally, we have starting with the citizen and the humanitarian and the community, which moving into education systems. And we all know there's so many different types of education, and we need to start training our leaders, young leaders, as the GBC folks were talking about, going to elementary schools and bringing students here and start teaching them how to look at cities differently in the way we live, which then leads to technology and innovation. And from technology and innovation, you can redevelop the workforce, not only the students that are working and learning, but also the people that are currently there in workforce development. So going vertically, we know there's business owners, we know there's homeowners in Detroit, but again, what can us students do here right now to contribute to these efforts? And if you look at the education system, there's Box City. Box City is a K through 6 program that teaches elementary school kids on how to relook at what our cities might be looking like to get them thinking as early as possible. Future City is a program sponsored by the Engineering Society of Detroit that is a national program, actually, and the winners of that program get to go to the White House and present to the president what they think the future of our city should look like. And then continuing Engineering Smart Detroit for high schools. That's another Engineering Society of Detroit sponsored program that has just come about in the recent years to look about how can high school students are helping Detroit. So how do we bring this all together at the collegiate level? Well, we see it as the solar decathlon competition, which is what we're going to tell you about in a little bit. And if we can stack those vertically and engage all levels of those students and engage them in our project and show them what we're doing to finalize their efforts, that's only going to lead to things like new technology and innovation. So how do we operate and manage and install things? How do we market this stuff so that we start changing a culture and start rethinking what we're using and doing? Manufacturing and changing, maybe bringing about a new manufacturing industry within the city of Detroit. We're all known for cars. Why couldn't we manufacture homes or do something along those lines? And then overall engineering strategies, which again lead to workforce development, lead to not only the students being developed, but also the residents currently living there, about retraining people and reclaiming skills that people might not have because they were a displaced auto worker and that's all they knew for their whole life was to work with their hands in an auto plant. So those jobs aren't there anymore. And how can we look at repurposing property? So when we look at Michigan and Michigan's energy consumption, Michigan homes on average consume 38% more energy than the average United States home. And that comes from us having a little bit higher heating costs in here since we are in a cold climate. But then if you look at the numbers, it creates about 6% more expenditures. Just because we can get fuel a little bit cheaper here, it doesn't cost us so much more money, but we're still using more energy in the United States than most other countries or most other cities. Sorry. So, but that also means that Detroit homes and Michigan homes are actually also typically older homes than the rest of the United States. And we're using more energy. In the 1950s, Detroit just built all those homes to support all the manufacturing that was happening in the city. And then those are old homes that weren't insulated properly, and many of the things were becoming a problem. So if we look at the average square footage though, I mean, we're about where the US is right now, average square footage in our typical homes. But we also got to keep in mind the McMansions that are out there and all these bigger homes that people are building and how much energy those are actually using so that people can live in luxury, or what they think may be luxury. In addition, when we talk about the Rust Belt to Green Belt and some of the other Rust Belt cities that have seen the same manufacturing demise as us, which is maybe Cleveland or Buffalo, one thing Detroit has is more houses of worship per capita than any other city. And what houses of worship can do is bring people together as a community to unite against something greater than themselves. And that's the great opportunity that we have to capitalize in Detroit because we have this opportunity that is knocking at our door. So a couple days ago, I gave my mom a call. She appreciated that because she didn't hear from me too often. And I asked her, so Mom, I'm doing this presentation, working on this project. Can you give me an idea of what your energy bill is like every year? And my mom is one of those people that keeps her thermostat at 65 in the winter and doesn't turn her air conditioning on until July. Anybody else relate to that? Yeah, we're all that way. So she was like, well, in the heart of summer, my bill's about $120 a month electrically, and it's about $25 a month for gas for water heating. And then in the heart of winter, it's about $110 a month. So my parents have been in their home for 17 years. I think they plan to stay there. I hope so. And if you multiply all that stuff out over 30 years, around $67,000 to $70,000 for a 1,300 square foot home that you're paying in utilities over 30 years. I know it doesn't sound like much, but that's someone's yearly salary for the most part. Or what could they have done with that money if they didn't have to pay utility bills? Maybe they could take more vacations or help me pay for my college loan. I'm not really sure. So if we look at that, they shouldn't have to be doing that. They shouldn't have to be paying those things. And we have the capability to do that today. Net zero energy is no longer a challenge for us. The technology is there. Net zero energy is a choice. And we have the ability to go on a mission for zero. And this house up top is an example of a house in Ann Arbor that was built in the 1900s and it was completely retrofitted to be completely net zero. It even charges a Chevy Volt and gives energy back to DTE. And that's because this house takes advantage of certain things. And the solution, one, if we just paid attention more to our site and our solar orientation, which this house did, and it wasn't the people that retrofitted it, it was the people that originally built it back in 1900s because they had to look at those things about how to use energy. And for the longest time, in the past 50 years, architects and engineers have become lazy because the development of the technology has allowed them to condition almost any space that they want because they have technology there and the fuel was cheap way back when. Well, we got new news. Fuel's not cheap anymore. And when you start looking back to the basics of how things used to be done. The other thing this house does is it only has R13 walls. It doesn't have a super big insulated envelope. but it's airtight, and its thermal envelope is very well done and retrofitted. And we used to think that houses had to breathe all the time so that they didn't build up mold. Well, nowadays we have the technology to know why mold exists and how to eliminate that and still have an airtight house as long as we properly ventilate it. And the air is what pulls the heat out of your house or puts the heat back in depending on the season. It's not always about your insulation. If you have air leaks, you have a huge problem. And that's HVAC is what causes most of your energy consumption. And then solution 3 is simply size. Houses nowadays are twice the size they were in the 1950s. Not to mention they have half the number of people working or living in them. Just to fit 2 families in some of the 1950s homes. And so if we look at some of the statistics from the Department of Energy, this is a breakdown of our energy consumption in 2011. And you can see that our production is over here on the left. And you can see down here renewable energy, it's about 9% of the United States overall energy production. We imported some things, and then our consumption over here. We've all heard the saying that buildings use the most energy in the world. And that's absolutely true. And if you break it down between residential and commercial, residential actually use about 4 more quadrillion BTUs of energy in the United States in 2011. And we have the opportunity to completely eliminate that sector because we all know that houses can be self-sustaining now. We've proven that. We've been able to do it. And it's something we want to move into. So we have a plan for this. We have a plan to continue to implement this idea in our culture. And it comes to the Solar Decathlon 2015. And it's what we're trying to enter as a student group and as a university. And we're going to get into a few minutes, but where it all started was back here in 2007, when Lawrence Tech built this house in the competition. And we saw this as students, wow, they did that back in 2007. Imagine what we could do now with the new technology and the new initiatives that are out there and the culture that we've built around energy efficiency. Why can't we do this again? So that's where we've gone.
All right, so we are Team Solar Detroit. I'm going to talk about how we're trying to bring our dreams to reality and with the Solar Decathlon competition and our strategy for getting into it and why we're going to do it, I mean our expected outcomes, and what our vision is for doing it. So these are some of the team members that were committed during this last summer, and some of them have even been committed for the last 2 years. We all kind of share the same dream, and we combined together to create a student organization called Students Constructing a Sustainable Tomorrow, or SCST. Our goal is to do hands-on projects on campus. And through that passion and the work that the 2007 team did, we were kind of inspired to do the Solar Decathlon again. So you might be thinking, what is the Solar Decathlon? The Solar Decathlon is an international competition sponsored by the Department of Energy. Its main purpose is to challenge university students to designing and building the most sustainable solar-powered home they can using the technology that's available today through innovation and other processes. The competition happens every 2 years. In the beginning it was 3, but now it's 2. And normally 20 teams compete, 20 universities. Well, each team can be composed of more than 1 university. And like Mike said earlier, LTU competed in 2007, and we plan on competing in 2015. Here's a brief history of the Solar Decathlon. The first year was 2002, but as you can see, the only Michigan teams were U of M in 2005 and LTU in 2007. After that, there hasn't been a Michigan team that's competed. You can also see that 2007, 2009, Germany actually won the competition. And then you see in 2010, the first European Solar Decathlon competition started. And this year we have the Chinese competition. So you can see that the Solar Decathlon has become more than just a US competition. It's reached across the globe. And this trend of sustainability and being aware of how much energy your house is producing has gone global. So to get down to the meat and bones of the competition, just like the name sounds, the Solar Decathlon, it's got 10 competitions. Each one ranges from architecture to communications to appliances in your house to the energy balance, of course. One of the big ones is affordability. So this was implemented in 2011 to make sure you couldn't just throw money at your house. So these houses are around $250,000. They're not $1.5 million, and they have a bunch of solar panels all throughout their house. No, these are trying to be affordable homes. Another big change was around 2007, they changed from battery-powered homes to grid-tied to go with the trend of now your house is going to be attached to the grid so you can produce energy for the grid and not just for yourselves. Another big thing is that this is a prototype house. So it is going to be more expensive, even though it's shooting to be $250,000, the research and the time that goes into it will make it more costly. So the process to get into the solar decathlon actually starts about 2.5 years before the actual competition. So if we were going to compete in 2015, we actually started about 6 months ago during the summer to write our proposal. And the proposal starts with a RFP from the Department of Energy, and they break down what they want. They want the technical parts of your house, at least outlined. What it's going to look like, a brief form. And they want to know how you're going to integrate building this competition and designing it into the university's curriculum. So that's a major part. And once you're accepted, the Department of Energy will actually give you a grant for $100,000 to get you jump-started. And the rest of the funds, because it is an expensive project, needs to be found either through community outreach or through sponsorship through industry. And once you're accepted, it's time to mobilize your student force, and you need to design, construct, and test the house in 2 years. That's a big deal. And then once you do that, once you test and you go to the competition, you have to take your house to the competition. In 2002 through 2011, the competition was hosted in the Washington, D.C. Mall. And starting this year, 2013, they're actually moving it to Irvine, California, right outside of San Francisco. So that change in distance for a Michigan team is huge. So that's something that you need to take into account when doing the project. So once you actually get to the competition, that's your time to compete. You're up against 20 teams in those 10 categories. So your house needs to perform. Once the competition occurs and everything's done, you have to take your house back to where you built it. So we have to transport it back to Michigan, and that's where the big thing is. Where is your house going to live afterwards? The 2007 house ended up in Troy. Depending on where you put the house, you can have a huge impact. Whether we put it in a neighborhood in Detroit or we use it as a tool to teach young students, it just depends. So to understand how the process works a little bit better, we're going to actually send a couple of our student members to the competition in a week or so to kind of understand how the process works. The competition's changed a little bit. Now it's in like a conference or like a mall type atmosphere in Irvine, California, or a conference. And we're going to go and talk to the teams who are actually there, who have gone through it. What are the big challenges? How did you move your house? Those kind of things. How did you organize your team? And kind of, how can we bring this competition back to Michigan? I think that's one of our major goals. So why do the competition? Really, by doing the competition, we can gain national scale attention. Even if you get fifth in the competition, you're in a international competition actually, and just that exposure can bring a lot of attention to, say, like the Detroit situation and to neighborhoods. And by doing the project, we're reaching out to the community and we're making that relationship. We're also opening up new research opportunities with industry and the school to provide different technologies that we can use for the house and for sustainability. And of course, doing the project, it provides us with the experience. And Mike and I, we're standing here giving you a lecture. I mean, that's just a great opportunity. And if we continue with this project, then it'll be even bigger of an opportunity for us to present ourselves. So that's kind of our goal, our vision. We want to bring back the Solar Decathlon to Michigan, and we are Team Solar Detroit.
So in real estate, they like to say location, location, location. And I'm going to tell you quickly a little bit why this location right here, right now, why us here in Michigan is the time to do this. And this really started for us way back in 2009 when a few of us heard of the competition and actually went to the competition. And we started talking about it, and we visited the 2011 competition as well. And we started a student group, Students Construct a Single Tomorrow, as Nathan said. And in 2012, we had a great opportunity where we were actually sponsored to go to Spain to see the European competition. And that was a great experience because it exposed more of us to the competition and actually exposed faculty to the competition. So over the past year, we've pretty much been doing a feasibility study on this competition. What do we need to do to bring it back? What are our goals? What do we need to hit? Where are our benchmarks? And so that's really where our calling has come from over the past couple of years. And even one of our alumnus, Steve Ballmer, who's CEO of Microsoft, came here back in the spring and gave a speech, and he even started to talk about we need to start investing in education, or invest in innovation, and invest in people, and drive local economic growth, and entrepreneurship, and strong public-private partnerships, and to have Detroit continue to grow not only as an innovative place for many, many industries, but as an economic engine throughout the world. So we have somebody of his caliber running through this and doing this, then why not do this? And what we're doing is we're really creating the perfect storm, and the need for neighborhood revival, the funding opportunities, the research hotbed that's currently going on in Detroit, the business education that we can create from this and redevelop the workforce and the kids that are in Detroit and do something for them. So this is the Pioneer House. We're the Pioneer House, and the settlement of urban pioneers that are coming into the city, those are the people, the young people are coming into the city and settling there and being urban pioneers and taking a chance on the city. And Detroit, everyone knows, is the arsenal of democracy. Manufacturing is what created Detroit. But Detroit's known for Motown, but soon it's going to be starting to be known as Growtown, with all of the art agriculture that's going on in the city. And in terms of education, we talk about the No Child Left Behind. What we're looking at, what about the No House Left Behind situation? So we've talked to many potential collaborators in the city of Detroit. Actually this summer we went down and talked to many nonprofits, and these are people that could potentially be working with us, and we're just trying to raise awareness for the project, and that's what we did this summer. And to talk about some of the student power that you need, this is the student distribution of the team, and then this is the professional and faculty support. You can't do this without professional and faculty support as well. And this is Middlebury College. And Middlebury College is a liberal arts college in the city in New England. And they don't have an architecture engineering program, but they came in 4th place in this competition, and their physics students, they're engineering on their project, physics students. And that's because they did a great job implementing a wide array of majors here in the competition. And this is the biggest point we're trying to get across here at Lawrence Tech, is us as architects and engineers can't do this together. Because if us students are going to be working in the world and leading the world in the future, we need to be working with all kinds of different people. And that's what this competition creates. So, Wheels in Motion, talked about the Spain trip, how we made some connections, we were able to talk to people, and that was an absolutely great experience, and we've been able to maintain some of those connections over the last year and really build our Solar Decathlon network. And what we've been doing is our weekly meetings in the spring. We have 15 plus students engaged. We've been engaging faculty all through the college. We started to set strategic planning and goals for ourselves. And over the summer, we started to write our proposal and meet every week and continue to develop this idea and explore Detroit. So currently, we're working on our fundraising and finance plan. What are we going to do to engage the community, engage industry in this project? How can we help them? And completing our proposal development is also on the top of our list, but also many other things. So we're waiting for the RFP to come out. Originally, it was supposed to be due November 8th, but they pushed it back. So that's actually good because it buys us more time to continue to develop it and continue to develop that community support. So time is of the essence. We've seen all these articles that have come about Detroit, about the negativity that's around it and why it's there. It's time for us to have something positive come out of the city. And there's many people that are doing some positive things in the city. There's many also articles that are positive, but it's just another avenue to get to that. So we actually have a studio, and if anybody's interested, we'll be there throughout the day. It's actually all the way down at the end of the hallway. We've got this door all the way down on the left. You'll see a couple of wood panels. If anybody would like to come see the studio and see what we've been up to, we'd be very much appreciative of it, and we'll be up there and we'd be more than willing to talk to you. So that's our presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions that may come up. And I think Professor Orlowski was about to end the session, so thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
We have just a few minutes. If there are any questions that you have for any of our speakers, Lauren, you might want to in the front. Please feel free to just raise your hand or stand up. And anyone?
Just want to say it's a great presentation, and I'd like to be involved in it. We'll be involved in it. And with now EcoWorks, Warren Trading Center.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I think there was a hand up in the back.
Mike, I was just wondering what your kind of your top priority is. You know, when you said, "Are we ready to help you? What can we do to help you?"
Mike, you might want to repeat that question, because you have the microphone.
Oh,
Repeat
yeah.
that question.
Oh, yeah, so the question was, what can people do to help us now, right? What you're asking. Well, right now, we have about 3 to 4 months to find that community support and engage industry and make presentations and ask about what could we do for you for this and what could you do for us. And we're actively seeking people to talk to about this and go make presentations. And so talking to us of your interests, of you wanting to see this happen just as much as we do because you see the value in it and you see it as the catalyst that it is for what could be for the city of Detroit.
I didn't see on your presentation if you were planning on using a geothermal heat pump for your heating and cooling, but if you are, I'm the executive director of the Geothermal Association of Michigan. We'd be happy to work with you to provide some, if you're planning on going geothermal, which to me would be it's the most efficient way of heating and cooling at home.
Geothermal is definitely a great option. In the solar decathlon, it only allows you to use solar. So solar, thermal, and PV, but we can still use some type of a heat pump system.
Well, you're still going to have to heat and cool your house.
Exactly.
And the geothermal will do it for less money, which...
Yeah. It's mostly due because we have to move the house to California. You can't like,
Yeah, the guidelines of government doesn't allow you to use geothermal, but it doesn't mean that when we bring it back here, home, we can root it in that type of a system.
Yeah.
Once it gets settled.
Yes.
If you want to include clean transportation, then we can help you with that as well. I operate a solar company in Windsor, Ontario, and we do numerous solar systems across North America. And we have recently added 2 electric vehicles to our operation, which we actually fuel from solar carports, which do use level 2 charging stations. About 3 months ago, my wife got a 3 kilowatt solar PV system for the garage, and we actually separated the service for the garage to have an independent meter to see how much the level 2 charger takes for the electric vehicle, and the 3 kilowatt system right now is ahead by a factor of 3. So if you need serious engineers, and yes, I admit to being the German engineer in this, if you need somebody who can seriously look at the engineering of it and your design from the solar side, talk to us.
That is fantastic. I would love to.
I'll give you my card.
So, the other thing you guys can really help do is just help spread the word. Obviously, not everybody that's at this conference today is in this presentation. So go out, the people that you're talking to, mention this and say, hey, I had a really great presentation. Maybe you should go talk to these guys because we're literally looking how to engage all of you in the industry. Yes.
You know that you have our support, a Team for Community.
Thank you.
Do you have a Facebook page or any social media that you can put out there that we can help
Yes,
spread?
we do. We can help develop that with
Please
you.
send us that.
Absolutely. So, any more questions?
Who's helping you with the organizations right in Detroit? Have you picked a geographical location?
We've investigated several, and that's through our personal connections with nonprofits and other entities, and we're always looking for additional people that might know a neighborhood that is doing something positive that this could be rooted in.
Let me recommend District 5, and we'll be talking with you about it.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm with EcoWorks as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
DPS Go Green Challenge. And we'd love to have you come and speak to our students.
I would love to as well.
Professor Goldsmith and I.
He doesn't even come, does he?
Anyway, thank you all for coming this morning. As a reminder, out the door here, Dustin will collect your speaker assessment forms and also have the sign-in forms for AIA and GBCI continuing education credit. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.